Hey guys, it's Doug Jones here. It is February 3rd, and welcome to the first of what we will hope to have many conversations over the next 9 or 10 months up through November. This will be the very first one that we're going to do. We're going to do a series of these things around the state. Some of them will be in the form of listening tours where we're going to go in various places in Alabama and talk to people to find out what is happening in those communities, what they're looking for their governor in their election next year. And then we're going to also talk to different people. We're going to talk to some of the candidates that are going to be running on the Democratic ticket for the various state offices, lieutenant governor, for auditor, for attorney general. We're going to do those across the board. So this is number one. And I thought I'd start out today just here in Birmingham, just me, to kind of follow up on a big town hall that I did in Lauderdale County a couple of months ago, really even before I announced that I was running for governor. Did a town hall up in Lauderdale County. It was one where it was sponsored by the Alabama Democratic Conference, their chapter up there, along with Blueprint Alabama. A huge crowd. We had a couple of hundred people there. It was really exciting. Stayed quite a while. But at the end, we couldn't get to everybody's questions. So I had all of these questions that folks had submitted that we couldn't get to. And with everything that's gone on for the last couple of months, it's just been hard to get around to circle back to some of those. So I want to kind of talk through a few of those today. We obviously still can't get to all of them. We'll just hang on to some of these and probably do a few as we go along in the campaign over the next few months. And so just, stay tuned. So let's just get to a few of the questions. We won't do everything. Try to get you out of here fairly quickly. I know it's, the afternoon. We're ready to roll. So the first question that I had was really a combination. It was, Charlotte Newman had asked, what's the plan to win back Alabama? And Gwen Simmons had asked the question, is it possible for any Democratic candidate to be elected in the red state of Alabama? Those are kind of the same questions. Well, let me tell you, we're going to win back Alabama. We're going to win the governor's race. I think we're going to win some other races up and down the statewide ticket. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do things like this, and we're going to go talk to people. But more importantly, we're going to listen to people. I think one of the problems that we have right now is that elected officials that you send to Montgomery every 4 years, they go down there every spring in the occasional special session, but they don't carry back what their constituents have necessarily told them. They wait and get their marching orders from special interests down in Montgomery. And we're going to change that. We want to make sure people that are in Montgomery in elected office statewide or your House or your Senate, they represent people. They represent you in each of your districts, in each of your communities, and that they've listened to you. That's what I want to hear when I become governor down there. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear what people back home are talking about. So we're going to win this by going out and talking to folks and listening to people and their cares and their concerns. Right now, I know a lot of people are hurting. I know people are concerned about their health care. They're concerned about their jobs. They're concerned about affording education for their kids. All of the things, their electric bills, you name it, the grocery bills, everything has seemed to go up with no end in sight right now. So we're going to be talking about all of those issues and listening. And over the course of the next few months, we're going to be responding. We'll be putting out a lot more things. But we also want to go into, we're not just going to stick into areas that have voted for Democrats in the past. We want to go and talk to everybody. Once I get elected and sworn in as governor, I want to be the governor for everybody. I tried to do that for everybody when I was in the United States Senate. I didn't always do everything that people agreed with. That's just kind of the nature of things. But I think that most people would recognize that I try to represent all of Alabama all of the time, and to do things in which we had dialogues, we reached out to people, did a bunch of different things. That's what I want to do as governor. I'm not going to stay in Montgomery. I'm going to come to communities. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to listen, and we'll take that back to Montgomery. So the main thing is we got to just get out there and work. We're going to be doing that from the campaign, and I'm going to ask all of you folks out there that are listening, if you could do that too over the next few months, then that's how we do this. That's how we win Alabama. because at the end of the day, I believe that we're on the right side of history. I believe that we are the candidacy that has people's best interest in mind. And if we can just get that message out to all folks, I think there'll be a lot of response. We have seen it so far in the 2 months since I've been elected. So let's see what we've got next. Plans for improving educational opportunities using the lottery. Well, kind of two different questions. But I do want to talk about that lottery first, because it can be tied to education. It may not end up being that way. We're not sure yet. But I am all in favor of a lottery. Everybody knows I've been talking about that from the day I announced. Alabamians deserve to have a lottery. They want a lottery. Everything that we've seen over the years, Alabamians want a lottery. They know, that every week almost, but especially when those lottery, jackpots get kind of big, we got folks streaming out of Alabama, and they're going east over to Georgia, and they're going north to Tennessee. They're going west to Mississippi. They're going south to Tommy Tuberville's home in Florida, and they're buying lottery tickets. We've got a ton of money that is leaving the state of Alabama because folks in Montgomery are not listening to people. They're listening to all the special interest, and everybody wants to get their hands in the pie and try to get their share of something. Well, that money needs to go back to the people of Alabama in some form or fashion. That's what needs to happen. Right now, there's already been one lottery bill that's been introduced. I think Senator Coleman introduced a type of lottery bill to give folks a chance to vote. I think another one may be introduced this week. I'm going to wait and see what that looks like. But I think you ought to, whatever it is, if you see these two lottery bills, you ought to call your state representative, call your state senator. If you live in Alabama, tell them to vote on it. Put it on the floor and vote on it. And let's have a vote on a lottery next November. Alabama is going to be going to the polls next November to elect all the constitutional offices. They're going to elect state legislators. They're going to elect a lot of local officials. There needs to be a lottery referendum on the ballot when everybody is coming to the polls in November. So when you see these lottery bills come out of Montgomery, this legislative session, they're in it now, call your representative, call your senator, and tell them to vote on it so we can get that lottery done. Now, how the money will be spent, I think, is a little bit of an open question right now. We're going to be talking to people to see how they may want the lottery money spent. Education is certainly a possibility. There were scholarships over in Georgia that were given, but I tell you, there are a lot of things. Teacher salaries may be included in that. There are a lot of things I think we can do to make up the shortfalls that we've had with education to try to make sure it's there. But healthcare is also a concern. People are losing health insurance. We're having rural hospitals closed. So it's a possibility to potentially use that as some form of healthcare. I don't know exactly what that might look like just yet. All I know is this: Alabama needs that revenue that's coming in, because we're going to have some shortfalls in any number of areas. I think the lottery is absolutely one of the ways that we can do that. Some online gambling revenue might be important too down the road. We'll see how that goes. Maybe a part of one of these bills. Not opposed to that. In fact, I think it's probably a good idea. The main thing I want to see is that standalone kind of lottery bill, so that Alabama can join the rest of the South. We are the only state in the Deep South that does not have the opportunity for a lottery, and we are losing hundreds of millions of dollars every year because of it. And you deserve it, you want it, and we're going to make it happen if you'll elect me governor. Let's see what we might have next. Okay. What can be done about protecting our healthcare system in Alabama? Small rural facilities, insurance, or lower income people that are struggling. That's from Jan Schroeder from Killen. Look, Jan, I think that's a great question. I think it's a top line question that has to be answered by folks running for office this year, including the members of the state legislature. I have been one since my election to the Senate in 2017 that has advocated for expansion of Medicaid. It has not been done. Again, just like the lottery. We've lost literally billions of dollars of federal monies, dollars that, by the way, we're paying into the Medicaid system that are going to other states now because they're not coming to Alabama. But we've lost out on that. As governor, I can't be able to expand Medicaid. It will be up to the legislature to fund it. But right now, we've not had a champion to do just that, to take the bull by the horns and expand Medicaid. So we're going to need to do that. But I will tell you that the what I call the anything but beautiful bill that passed by Congress this past year, which most of your delegation, both senators, 5 of your legislative delegation, all passed. It's going to hurt the possibility of expanding Medicaid. It is going to hurt folks down the road because it prohibits so many things that would expand the opportunities. It cuts the amount of the hospital tax. And so we're going to struggle, I think, with that. From my standpoint, I'm going to push to expand Medicaid. I think that that's so important, one way or another, to get Medicaid expanded. We've got some 300,000 people in Alabama that could have benefited from expanded Medicaid, and we refuse to do it. Those people, by and large, don't even have health insurance, and those rolls may increase now that the Affordable Care Act subsidies are going to go away, and people are not going to be able to afford health care. That's going to increase the uninsured, and people are falling in these gaps between Medicaid and the ability to afford health care. That's a real problem in Alabama, because when you have an unhealthy state, you have an unhealthy economy. It affects jobs, it affects schools, it affects everything. We have lost so many rural hospitals lately, and there are so many more that are on the brink of failing. We've got to do everything that we can to prop up rural hospitals, to get people the access to the health care that they need. It's not going to be easy. We're going to have to tighten some belts. We're going to have to do the things necessary. But it's so important to attract doctors, to attract nurses, and particularly in rural areas. Right now in Alabama, in many places of the state, you can't have a baby without driving 60 or 70 miles. That's just uncalled for. That is just not what we should be about. We should be having health care that's accessible to all folks. That's good. And I don't believe that the Alabama legislature, I don't think that those have been in charge in Montgomery have focused on the health care needs of our state like they should have. And by the way, yeah, we're getting some money from the federal government. They kind of threw a bone to rural hospitals with this anything but beautiful bill because they knew it was going to hurt rural hospitals. We're getting a small amount of money, and I appreciate the fact that there's going to be monies going out that came from the feds, but it's a drop in the bucket. It is not going to change the direction, and we need to make sure that we do all we can to get people healthy. And expanding Medicaid is still going to be a priority for a Doug Jones administration. Okay, what do we got next? Let me look here. Oh, this is a goodie. What is your stance on the for-profit prison system in Alabama? And that's from Kathy Waltzman in Florence. Kathy, I'm adamantly opposed to for-profit prison systems. I've seen how damaging that they may be. You only have to look at the problems that we've had in our prison system over the last 20 or 30 years, as documented in part by the movie that we've seen, The Alabama Solution. We're going to have to take a good, long, hard look at the prison system. We have started to build a new prison. There's a second one that's being planned. The problem is it's costing over $1 billion to build one. When that prison system was first proposed, we were told as taxpayers that we're going to use this COVID money that came in from the federal government that was left over, and we're going to build 2 brand new prisons for a total cost of $1 billion, $900 million, I think is what they originally said. So everybody was going, okay, we need new prisons. Didn't disagree with that necessarily. It seemed reasonable for the cost of 2. Well, we're at well over $1 billion, and the first one hadn't even been completed yet. The second one we really hadn't started on. So there's some problems there somehow, some way that I think need to be addressed by the next administration to see where that money's gone, what kind of cost overruns there has been. And we really need to start looking at more efficient ways to run the prison, but humane ways. You know, the governor doesn't have the power of the purse, but he does have the power of appointments, and it can issue a number of things. Want to get in there and examine what all has been being done lately for the prison system. I'm not going to cast aspersions on the current system right now and those that are in place until I get in there and see. But hopefully, hope to God they've made some improvements based on what we have all seen in the movie, where Alabama's prison system death rate is the highest in the country. That is not acceptable. And we need to be figuring out ways that we make sure people that once they are released are re-entered into society and can become productive members of society, and the recidivism rate is low. Right now, Alabama is doing better on that recidivism rate, but it's still too dang high. And we need to make sure people understand that and know that this is costing taxpayers more money than it should. And we need to reevaluate the lawsuits and everything else that is going on with the prison system and the way it's been for the last 20 years or so. So I don't like for-profit prison systems. I think they cut corners for profit, and I think that we need to be a better job for the state of Alabama. Okay, where are we going next? Let's look at this one. This one's one that's is really kind of, I think, important in many, many ways, because it pertains not just to taxpayer dollars, but also a Bill of Rights and the rights that we have. And this question comes from Jennifer Butler Keaton from Florence. Public libraries in Alabama have had a very challenging couple of years with shifting and unclear rules from the Public Library System Board. How do you propose improving this situation to make Alabama more supportive of public libraries and free access to information and ideas? Well, I got to tell you, Jennifer, that buck stops and starts with the governor of the state, and it will go down from that. And you will see in my administration that the governor will be a champion of public libraries, a champion of free speech, a champion of making sure libraries are free and have access to a lot of information. You are absolutely right. Libraries, like so many of our freedom of speech rights, freedom of the press rights, have been under siege in the last couple of years, particularly in Alabama when it comes to libraries. So the governor can do a couple of things. The first thing that I can tell you I would do is I'd get rid of a few people on that library board and have some people with some common sense and not some crazy political agenda that we see constantly. And so that they can work with public libraries to make sure that folks have access to information. Look, and I understand that there are concerns about some books that are maybe inappropriate for young kids. Those can be remedied without removing them. Those things can be fixed without trying to ban books and do the kind of things that we've seen happening. Those things can be worked on with people to try to do the things that are the right things for that community. And libraries should answer to their communities, no question about that. But we've also got to understand that not everybody in that community thinks exactly the same way. We've got to have freedom of thought. We've got to have a freedom of access to the information. So you're going to find in Doug Jones a big supporter of public libraries. And I think together we can make sure that everyone is satisfied. Because when you go to the library or your children go to the library, you want them to have the kind of information that is out there. You want them to kind of learn and benefit from this incredible society that we live in. So we're going to be really supportive, but I guarantee you that if not on day one, pretty dang close to it, there are going to be some vacancies on that Alabama Public Library System Board for sure. Okay, where are we now? Let's see. Well, I think we're getting close to some time here. We've been going for a little bit. So I really want to kind of end up with a couple of things here. This first one is that I appreciate very much. It's from Carolyn Waterman from Killen. It says, what is the most important thing we can do to get you elected? Well, Carolyn, I am so glad you asked that. And in fact, I feel so good that we've been asked that a lot over the last couple of months. In fact, quite frankly, I've been asked about it for the last couple of years. And I really appreciate the outpouring of support that my wife, Louise, and I have felt with everybody. We've seen you, we've heard you, we've talked to so many people, so many folks have gotten in touch with us. And that was one of the main things that they've asked, what that can do. Well, we're still in the early stages of a campaign, but we're putting what I call the nuts and bolts together of a campaign organization. And you're going to see a very grassroots campaign. You're going to see a lot of things happening on the ground. They may not all happen in the next couple of weeks or the next month, but they're going to be happening on the ground. So what can you do now? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, and I think the most important thing that anybody can do right now is just start talking to their friends and neighbors and their family. And when I say talk, I mean having a dialogue, not a monologue. Don't go in there and preach to them about what, you think who the best candidate is here or there. Talk to folks. Listen to what their concerns might be. That's what we're going to be doing around the state over the next 9 or 10 months. We're going to be going out and having those conversations where we listen as much as we talk about what I believe and where we stand. You can have those conversations right now. If there's something that you feel like that you need to let the campaign know, by all means, get in touch with us. You can go to DougJones.com, and we get those messages. We see them, people act on them, or we'll try to respond to them, but we're certainly taking everything into account. So the most important thing right now is to just talk to folks and have these dialogues. It doesn't matter if you're at your kitchen table or the diner or the coffee shop or at a sporting event. It doesn't matter. You name it. You have these conversations. Just start out. What are you thinking about this right now? Where do you think we are? And one of the questions I think you ought to ask, are you satisfied with the way the state government has been? Do you think the state government listens to you? Because, overwhelmingly, people in Alabama over the last 20 years have said no, that they don't believe the state of Alabama listens to them. They don't believe their leadership listens to them. They listen to the folks in Montgomery and the lobbyists that have all the money down there. That's who they think their legislators and their elected officials listen to. We're going to change that because we're going to listen and we're going to make sure we put power back in the hands of the people. One of the things, by the way, if you heard any of my kickoff speech, I want Alabama to have what they call this citizen-led ballot initiative. Representative Marilyn Lands filed a bill recently that will allow if they get a certain number of signatures to put laws and constitutional amendments on the ballot. Don't have to wait for Montgomery to do it the way the hell they want to do it. Put it on there with signatures like this. There's 25, 26 states that have that. That's putting the hands of back in the people. That's putting the power of laws and constitutional amendments in the hands of the people. And I'll tell you what that does. It's not just about getting specifics on a referendum for you to vote on. It is a message to the folks in Montgomery that is saying, listen to us. Here's some things that mean a lot that we want you to work on. So it has a double of effect of maybe getting some things passed. I guarantee you a lottery would have passed if we'd had one of those. But it will also affect the folks in Montgomery who are going to pay a heck of a lot more attention. So those are the things that you can do right now. You're going to see a fair amount of social media that we have out there like this live. It will be recorded. We're going to take probably parts of it and put it out on Instagram and X and Blue Sky and, maybe even TikTok, although I promise you I'm not going to dance on TikTok. It's not going to happen. And you can share those around with a lot of people. You can make sure that you share that in the message and ask people to respond. The one thing I don't want anybody to do, I don't want you to get in a fight on social media. You don't have to argue. You can challenge a little bit, but be nice. We want the messages out there. And that's how I think you can help right now. At some point, we'll be coming into your area. I hope you'll join us at some of these listening tours or whenever we're talking to folks. It may be another candidate, but you can come to those and show support. When we get other things, demonstrate that support. But the main thing now, just talk, start those dialogues around the state. We need that right now, by the way. We need it in America where people are not yelling and screaming at each other, but just sitting down and talking to each other, which really comes to the last couple of questions. Really two here. One's from Carrie Shapiro in Florence. How do we win this election? By being positive and not making it all about being against the other side. We must represent strongly what we believe in, not what we're against. Another one similar from Greg McCandless in Florence. What is our uniting message? How do you plan on getting the message out? Well, we're going to do that, Greg, a lot with this kind of medium. We'll do some other things with radio and we'll do some things with TV, but it's going to be a lot of social media over the next 11 months, 10, 11 months. And I totally agree that we've got to do more than just being against somebody. It's quite frankly pretty easy, in my view, to be against folks that are running on the other side right now. We're going to present things like the lottery. We're going to present things about workforce development and education and making sure that we try to do those things to make life affordable. Remember, a governor can't do the things. I don't have those big policy things that can actually bring a lot of prices down. But what we can do is to try to lift the wages, lift the standard of living, minimum wages, those kind of things, making sure everybody has a minimum wage that is above what it was done 40 years ago, lifting that minimum wage. I want to see the grocery tax eliminated completely. Just get rid of taxes on groceries. I want to see the legislature once again implement no tax, income tax on overtime. We had that. They gave it to everybody, no tax on overtime, and then they took it away. They need to put it back. Those are the kind of things that make life more affordable for everybody. So we're going to be doing that a lot. But the other thing we're going to be doing, and you're going to hear a lot of this over the next few months from my campaign, and I think you're going to hear it from some other folks. And that is about two things. Number one, a whole new change, what I call the ticket for change. And that is from the governor all the way down to the state auditor, the PSC, others, attorney general, lieutenant governor, agriculture commissioner, you name it. We're going to have a ticket for change of people that care about this state. Some that have been in public office before that have run statewide and won statewide elections, like Ron Sparks and his running for his old seat as Commissioner of Agriculture. We're going to have some newer faces like Phil Lenzler running for lieutenant governor. We've got faces that are in elected office like Violet Edwards up in Madison County. We're going to have this ticket for change. And that is a huge deal. That's a big deal because it's giving people choices. Right now, we've got such a rigged system with straight ticket voting and gerrymandering that we don't really sometimes feel like we've got choices. We've got choices. We're going to see the choices. We're going to give you choices. Please, over the course of the next few months, look at everybody. Examine what they're saying, not just the political party that they might be running on. When you do that, I think you're going to see that's how we have a positive message going. And the last thing I'm going to say about this in the uniting message, and this is what you're going to hear a lot of again, and that is what the song that I quoted at my kickoff from the Highwomen. If you not know the Highwomen, you need to look them up. They're great. And they did a song called Crowded Table. And that's the vision that we have for Alabama. And I'm going to talk about that crowded table at probably every time I do one of these things. We want to build Alabama like a house with a crowded table, where there's a place by the fire for everyone, where we take on the world while we're young and able and come back together when the day is done. A house where the door is always open, your picture's on my wall, place where we're all a little broken, but where we all belong. That's the unifying message that needs to be Alabama. That is the anthem. That is one of unity. That is a house with a crowded table. That's got a place for everyone, no matter where you are, no matter what zip code you are, no matter what race, what religion, what sex you are. It is a house with a crowded table, and we're going to make room for everyone. And when the Doug Jones administration takes office, you will know that we have built that house with a crowded table. So that's how we're going to get that out. That's the unifying message that we're going to have, because we're all in this together, folks. So until next time, I appreciate you joining today. We'll let you know when it's coming out the next time, and I hope to see you there. Thanks.